So last week, Affinity pulled all of their software from sale. You just can't buy it right now, like anywhere. In its place on their homepage is a splash screen saying, "Creative freedom is coming. Sign up to be the first to know. True creative freedom is just around the corner, October 30th. And fans of their software are a little worried. Okay, that's a lie. They are capital M mad. Out on social media, people are saying things like, buy it right now before it becomes a subscription. And Affinity's own Discord is on fire. So all of this, probably not as bad and shocking as it sounds, but last year, Affinity was purchased by Canva, which is Adobe's biggest competitor. And with that purchase, there have been concerns that Affinity might go the subscription route, or all in on AI, or a myriad of other concerns that creatives have. And my general take is, don't panic until you have a reason to panic. It sounds like they're prepping for some big updates, maybe a jump over to version 3 of their software. It has been almost 3 years since their 2.0 release in November of 2022, so 3-year cycle kind of sounds about right. But the fact that their software just isn't for sale right now is tripping a lot of people up here. And a few of the replies on Twitter where users were inquiring about the purchase page being down, Affinity said this: "That is expected for now. We've temporarily disabled purchases while we're preparing for what is next. The homepage is acting as a teaser during this transition. Purchasing will return once the new Affinity experience goes live." And I feel for this guy because he was using the 7-day trial to do what I'm assuming is work. And as that software expired, he wanted to give the money so he could continue working, and he just flat out cannot work until the end of the month. And that kind of sucks. And I'm genuinely surprised that they didn't extend the free trial period past 7 days to accommodate this change. And he's not alone here. A lot of people on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, a lot of them are stubbing their toes on this too. Now, Seraph did reply to one user and said that the team is working on some kind of fix for everybody who's been affected by this. So those are the facts. That is what we know. Now, let the rampant speculation begin. I am intrigued by this title. Creative freedom is coming. Freedom in what way? What if instead of subscription-based, it goes the other way? What if we get a freemium model where the software has a free tier just to get more users into the Canva ecosystem? And bonus, they get to undercut Adobe that way, and that's good for Canva as a whole. Now, if your plan is to release a free version of your software on October 30th, and say you're someone who wants to buy it today, you might get kind of mad knowing that if you had just waited a few weeks, you could have had it for free. And one way around that is to just pull it from sale so that that doesn't happen. It's also entirely possible that pulling it from sale is just a way to drum up attention from YouTubers who are always on the lookout for content. They got you there! Works every time. Shout out to Matt Penn, who shared Seraph's 2024 annual report with me. According to the report, the transition to being owned by Canva did go well. They didn't have to lay off any staff. They also shifted focus to, quote, to work on new products and features which will utilize the combined technological strength of the Canva and Affinity platform. The first public release will be unveiled towards the end of 2025. I found this interesting too. The strategy shifted away from growing revenue more towards new customer acquisition. And again, if that is true, if Canva wants Affinity to focus more on customer acquisition, the whole subscription model makes a little bit less sense. Another thing to point out here is if you are interested in using Affinity, you can still use it on the iPad. In fact, if you go to Apple's App Store right now, the Affinity Suite is completely free to download. It says that there are in-app purchases, but as I scroll down, it looks like it says $0. It's hard for me to see this because I already own all of these, but there are a lot of Twitter posts out there that back this up. I should point out that my optimism on all of this, not shared by pretty much anybody. A lot of people are just convinced that this is probably going to go subscription. One user on Twitter said, "If this is subscription-based, you will lose me for sure." And Affinity followed up by saying, "We hear you. Affinity has always stood for fair, pro-friendly pricing, and that won't change. More details coming soon." Someone else did follow up to that comment saying, "We aren't switching to a subscription." That's literally all you had to say, and everyone will calm down, but you won't say it. I want to revisit something from last March when Affinity was purchased by Canva. They put up this website. They made this pledge. And there were 4 points to it. Number 1 is fair pricing, which was perpetual licenses will always be offered, and we will always price Affinity fairly and affordable. 2, accelerating Affinity. Affinity is here to stay. It will remain the highest quality pro design suite, and we will now accelerate the rollout of new features. 3, accessible for all. The Affinity suite will soon be made available without charge to schools and registered nonprofits. And number 4, community-led. We are committed to shaping Affinity's future. guided by your ideas and feedback. Now, I'm not completely naive here. I don't think this pledge is forever. I think 5 years from now, this pledge means nothing. But it's been a year, and I think it still does mean something. I don't think you change your strategic direction that quickly after an acquisition, unless, of course, you're Microsoft. And since the acquisition, they have followed through with their pledges to schools and nonprofits, and they've allowed old users to get free trials again, extended trials for periods of time, things like that. Now, number 4, the community-led part is kind of interesting here because that seems a little sus right now. So while this announcement / non-announcement has really frustrated people, while all that is going on, Affinity has gone out and shut down their online forums. This is the place where users have historically gone for help or to share bugs that they've come across and stuff like that. They're replacing this forum with the Discord server. The forums are still up, but they're locked for posting. They're read-only now. Now, I've got nothing against Affinity having a Discord server. Cool idea, bro. But those old school web forums are used very differently than how people use Discord. Discord is much more immediate, much faster moving, great for conversations and live help. Not so good for general help. Forums are much more searchable from the web, and I've used Affinity forums over the years a lot, but I almost never post a question to them. Instead, I search for the problem I'm having, I find an old post, and I find out how they solved that problem, and I just do that. That's a heck of a lot harder to do on Discord, and historically, the community on those forums have been amazing. There were people there who legit cared about Affinity and really wanted to make the transition from Adobe as smooth as possible over to this new software. These people were crazy helpful, and most of these people were doing it for free. There are a lot of companies out there that would cut off their left arm to have a community like this. It's a heck of a lot harder to find old answers on Discord. Not only that, but in a forum, if your question doesn't get answered right away, no problem. Someone is going to see your post a few hours later when they're ready to help you, have time to help you. On Discord, the conversation moves on. After a few minutes, if your request has not been answered or has not been seen by the right person, too bad. This whole thing with the community and the forums seems like an epic self-own, and I don't really understand why this change has been made. Someone in the forum itself, when they announced it was being canceled, pointed out all of these things, and they still went ahead with it a few weeks later and closed it down. Why would you take away one of your superpowers? The Justice League wouldn't just fire Aquaman. Who would talk to the fish? And this whole community thing is compounded because it's happening at the same time that there's been this just utter lack of communication apart from, wait a month, from Affinity. So here's to hoping that we get some good news on October 30th. Stay tuned. I'll probably be covering it either way. But what do you think is going to happen? What do you think they are going to announce later this month? And is this community uproar justified? Let me know down below in the comments.